The House comes then to questions for oral answer. Point of order, Chris Hipkins.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Mr Speaker, I'd like to ask you to give a considered ruling with regard to written parliamentary questions and answers supplied to written parliamentary questions from ministers, and the growing practice of ministers simply to refer to either the financial review process or the estimates process when given questions that relate to financial performance or spending decisions by government departments. The increasing practice of ministers has been to simply say this information is supplied to a select committee X or whatever. Please refer to those answers. There are three things that I'd like you to look into with regard to that. The first of which is that information is not necessarily available to all members. Any member has a right to question a minister regarding those matters of financial performance. And in some cases, the matter could still be before the select committee, so it's not available to all members. Or, in fact, it may not have even. The second, of course, is that it may not have even been asked for in the first place. And so while there are extensive questioning goes on during those processes, what we're finding is that some of the information asked for in written parliamentary questions hasn't even been asked for through the financial review or estimates process. And so those are the issues that I'd like you to look into and give a considered ruling on, because the written parliamentary questions process is a very important part of the opposition's ability to hold the government and government departments and agencies to account for the use of taxpayer funding.
I thank. Speaking to the point of order, the Honourable Gerry Brownlee.
Mr Speaker, I would point out that if information has been provided to a select committee in a financial review and the review has been conducted through the House, then that information is available to all members. Secondly, sir, I think if you're going to have a look at the way in which ministers are answering questions, I would hope that you look at the questions that are being asked. It is an important aspect of our democracy that parties representing opposition parties or any member of Parliament can ask questions for written answer of ministers. They do have to be reasonable questions, and I think when they are in the nature of a fishing exercise, then they probably are going to get a broader sweep of answer, or an answer that gives a broader sweep of potential answers in order to make sure that the greatest amount of information is captured by the intention of the answer, therefore the referral to a financial review, which of course is an extensive document with many questions in it, sir.
I thank both members for their contribution. I will certainly have a very close look at the matters raised by Chris Hipkins. I will certainly come back to Chris Hipkins if I feel it requires information coming back to the House, then I would do so as well. We return now to questions.
Point of order.
Point of order, Ron Mark. Fresh point of order?
Yes, Mr Speaker.
Fresh point of order, Ron Mark.
Mr Speaker, I raised with you yesterday an issue regarding a question that was put by the Right Honourable Winston Peters to the Minister for Māori Development. It was taken on behalf of the Minister by the Honourable Chris Finlayson. In giving answers to that, the Honourable Chris Finlayson said that the question should have been directed to the Minister for Whānau Ora. I asked you to consider that, firstly, the report was commissioned by the Minister for Māori Development. It was released by the Minister for Māori Development. And, of course, the Minister for Māori Development was also the Minister for Whānau Ora. You were going to deliberate on the Hansard and come back and advise the House whether or not that question could have been answered appropriately.
I've heard enough. No. The member would only go back again and look at Hansard. He will see that my response was I would certainly have a look at the questions and the answer. I specifically said I would not necessarily come back to the House. I did have a look at the questions and answer, and I'm quite comfortable that the questions were answered according to standing orders. The particular problem in the question that was raised is it was a supplementary question that arose from a very unspecific primary question. Does the Minister stand by all his statements, or words to that effect? Therefore, the adequacy of the answer, in my opinion, was consistent with standing orders, and if the member wants to have a look at Speaker's rulings to help him, I suggest he looks at pages 198 and 199. We now return to questions for oral answer. Question number 1, in the name of James Shaw.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. My question is to the Minister for Climate Change Issues and reads, are New Zealand officials working to soften the climate change declaration to be adopted at the Pacific Islands Forum?
The Honourable Simon Bridges.
Speaker, on behalf of the Minister, no. Our officials are working closely with their Pacific colleagues to get a strong declaration on climate change from the Forum, a clear statement of ambition that recognises the particular circumstances of the Pacific will be an important contribution to the outcome in Paris in December.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, James Shaw.
So given that answer, will he support the call of Pacific Island leaders at the Forum to hold global temperature increases to a level that would ensure their survival? Yes or no?
The Honourable Simon Bridges.
I think on behalf of the Minister to answer that. I mean, of course, we all think climate change is an incredibly important issue. I think the member, though, is getting ahead of himself. The declaration is going to be discussed and a consensus, we hope, arrived at tomorrow. And I don't believe there's a settled position today. It's a matter of open dialogue by all the parties there to try and achieve consensus.
Supplementary question, James Shaw.
So will he support the completely reasonable resolution from small island states to put an immediate moratorium on any new coal mines?
The Honourable Simon Bridges.
Speaker, well, I think ultimately that's for different countries in terms of their energy mix, but be very clear, New Zealanders, indeed the member, should be incredibly proud of the $100 million we're putting into Pacific Island nations to make them more renewable. And there's over 20 some renewable projects in Tonga and Samoa and Tuvalu and a number of other Pacific Island countries where New Zealand is taking a leadership position in renewable energy.
So,
supplementary question.
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order.
My question was specifically in relation to the resolution from small island states to put in a moratorium on new coal mines, not about the amount of aid that we're putting into the Pacific.
Again, I need to refer the member to Speaker's ruling 1874. The member's effectively asking for a yes or no answer to the question that he's raised. The Minister's not required to give a yes or no answer. Further supplementaries?
Point of order, Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, James Shaw.
That may be true, but it was in relation to the resolution and relating to a request for no new coal mines, and I don't believe that the Minister addressed that question.
Order. As I listen to the questions, I think it has been addressed. It's a marginal call by my point of view. The way forward, I'll on this occasion allow the member an additional supplementary question. Supplementary question, James Shaw.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. So what does he have to say to the President of Kiribati, Anate Tong, who has told us that, quote, we cannot negotiate this, no matter how much aid. We cannot be bought on this one because it is about our future.
The Honourable Simon Bridges.
Of the Minister. Well, of course, our Prime Minister is in PNG. He'll be respectfully listening to the various positions. As I've already said, I think this is a matter of an open dialogue to try and achieve consensus tomorrow in relation to a declaration on this very important issue. I think we all agree of climate change.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, James Shaw.
And what is his response to Pacific Island leaders who are calling for New Zealand to be kicked out of the Forum because our approach to climate change represents the single greatest threat to their territorial integrity and security?
The Honourable Simon Bridges.
Speaker, on behalf of the Minister, well, of course, as I say, I think we take climate change very seriously. We've got an ambitious target heading into Paris. I think that New Zealanders, including the members of this House, should be incredibly proud, actually, of the leadership role we play in the Pacific when it comes to climate change, whether that's in terms of sharing experience and expertise in a range of areas, or whether it's spending and investing $100 million across Pacific Island countries in renewable energy. That is literally transformative to small communities throughout, as I say, the Pacific.
Supplementary question,
Mr. Speaker.
James Shaw.
How many of the 179,000 people living in Kiribati, the Marshall Islands, Nauru and Tuvalu will New Zealand take in as refugees when sea level rise renders those countries uninhabitable?
The Honourable Simon Bridges.
Well, Mr. Speaker, I think on behalf of the Minister, the member is referring to climate refugees. That's, of course, a possible future phenomenon and hence one of real concern. I think we'd all agree again to Pacific Island nations and those people, each and every one of them that the member talks about. We think our response in New Zealand to climate change should continue to focus on mitigation and adaptation measures so Pacific peoples can continue to live in their own countries. And as I say, the leadership role we have had in the Pacific on climate change is something I think New Zealanders and the member should be proud of.
Supplementary.
Supplementary question, James Shaw.
Is he happy, therefore, to go to Paris with an emissions reduction target that, if widely adopted by the rest of the international community, would eliminate entire countries in the South Pacific?
Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Simon Bridges.
On behalf of the Minister, member is entirely wrong. We have an ambitious new target to reduce greenhouse gas emissions to 30% below 2005 levels by 2030. This is, and the member may not like it, but a significant increase on our current unconditional target. We compare favourably to other countries, same as Canada, a little better than the United States, 27% on 2005 levels, a little better than Australia and a little under the EU. I think we can hold our head up going to Paris with a high level of ambition.
Supplementary question, James Shaw.
So is he aware that climate scientists at the Climate Tracker Group have placed New Zealand's response as insufficient and inadequate, and we are in fact in the bottom category of countries in terms of the levels of ambition that we are taking to Paris?
The Honourable Simon Bridges.
On behalf of the Minister, well, of course, there'll be a spectrum of views on these things, and there's a clear desire for high ambition from many people. But I repeat what I've already said, we've got an ambitious target that we take to Paris, and we compare favourably to other countries.
Question number 2.